The rain was tapping gently against the window, a soft, rhythmic sound that usually brought me comfort. But not today. Today, it felt like a countdown, each drop a second ticking away from the life I thought I had. I lay on the floor, my body aching from the fall, my voice hoarse from calling out. I had slipped on the wet kitchen tiles, a silly accident, but the pain shooting through my hip told me it was more than a bruise. I had called my son, my only child, the one I had raised alone after his father passed. I need help. I whispered into the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. I've fallen and I can't get up. There was a pause, a sigh, and then, Mom, I can't come right now. I have a meeting. I'll try to come by tomorrow if I can. The line went dead, and with it something inside me. As I lay there, the cold from the tiles seeping into my bones, I thought about all the times I had been there for him. The nights I stayed up when he was sick, the school plays I attended alone, the endless meals cooked, the clothes mended, the dreams I put on hold. I had been a nurse, a teacher, a caregiver, always putting others first, and now, when I needed someone, I was alone. The realization was a slow, creeping thing, like the chill from the floor. I wasn't a person to them anymore. I was a convenience, a resource, an old woman who could be put off until tomorrow. The thought was a knife twisting in my chest, but it also brought a strange clarity. I had spent my life making sure everyone else was taken care of, and in doing so, I had forgotten to take care of myself. I managed to crawl to the couch, each movement a testament to my determination. I wouldn't call him again. I wouldn't beg for help. I would take care of myself, as I had always taken care of others. I reached for my phone and dialed a different number, one I hadn't used in years. Hello, this is Elena, I said, my voice steady despite the pain. I need to make an appointment to update my will. The words felt like a promise, a vow to myself. I would no longer be invisible. I would no longer be a convenience. I would take back my space, my voice, my name. And as I hung up the phone, I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope not for others, but for myself. The days that followed were a blur of pain and determination. I moved through my apartment like a ghost, each step a reminder of my fall, each breath a testament to my resolve. I had spent a lifetime taking care of others, and now it was time to take care of myself. I visited the lawyer's office, a small, quiet place tucked away in the heart of the city. The lawyer, a young woman with kind eyes, listened as I explained my wishes. I wanted to change my will, to ensure that my assets were distributed in a way that reflected my true intentions. I had always planned to leave everything to my son, but now I wanted to leave a portion to charity, to organizations that helped the elderly, the forgotten. I want to make sure that my legacy is one of care, not just for my family, but for those who need it most, I told her, my voice steady despite the emotions churning inside me. She nodded, her pen scratching against the paper as she took notes. As I left her office, I felt a sense of control, a sense of purpose that I hadn't felt in years. I stopped waiting for the phone to ring, for my son to call and ask how I was doing. I stopped waiting for the visits that never came, for the words of comfort that were never spoken. Instead, I filled my days with activities that brought me joy. I joined a book club at the local library, a group of women who met every Tuesday to discuss literature and life. I started taking walks in the park, the crisp autumn air filling my lungs, the rustling leaves a symphony of change. I began to write, my thoughts spilling onto the page in a cathartic release. I wrote about my life, my experiences, my hopes and dreams. I wrote about the times I had been there for others and the times I had been let down. I wrote about the strength I had found within myself, the strength that had been there all along, waiting to be discovered. One evening, as I sat at my kitchen table, a cup of tea steaming in front of me, I looked at the phone lying silent on the counter. I thought about calling my son, about reaching out and trying to bridge the gap that had formed between us. But I didn't. Instead, I picked up my pen and continued to write, my words a testament to my journey, my strength, my voice. I was no longer invisible. I was no longer a convenience. I was Elena, a woman with a story to tell, a life to live, and a future to shape. And as I wrote, I felt a sense of peace, a sense of purpose, a sense of hope, not for others, but for myself. The seasons changed, and with them, so did I. The pain in my hip had subsided, replaced by a strength I hadn't known I possessed. I had taken back my life, my voice, my name, and in doing so, I had found a sense of peace, a sense of purpose. One crisp autumn morning, I sat in the park, a book in my lap, the sun warming my face. I had just finished reading a particularly moving passage to my book club, a group of women who had become my friends, my confidantes. As I looked around at their faces, I saw understanding, empathy, respect. I was no longer invisible. I was no longer a convenience. I was Elena, a woman with a story to tell, a life to live, and a future to shape. I thought about my son, about the distance that had grown between us. I had stopped waiting for his calls, stopped expecting his visits. Mine porfikapli for mine takes, sevli, mine 99 bekine. Anini to give to the curses, and I levers, mine 99 develokake, mine 99. I had stopped begging for his attention, his love, and in doing so I had found my own attention, my own love. I had found myself. I received a letter in the mail, a formal, legal envelope that bore the lawyer's return address. Inside was a copy of my updated will, a testament to my journey, my strength, my voice. I had left a portion of my assets to charity, to organizations that help the elderly, the forgotten. I had left a portion to my book club, a group of women who had become my family. And I had left a portion to my son, not out of obligation, but out of love, a love that was no longer one-sided, no longer a convenience. As I sat in the park, the sun warming my face, I felt a sense of closure, a sense of completion. I had taken back my life, my voice, my name. I had found my strength, my purpose, my hope. And as I looked around at the faces of my friends, I knew that I was no longer alone. I was Elena, a woman with a story to tell, a life to live and a future to shape, and I was ready.